A very rare storm system is coming to the United States over the next few days, and this will bring the threat of a tornado outbreak on Friday and Saturday from the Great Plains back through the East Coast. In addition to that, a significant fire risk is likely tomorrow in the central and southern plains, where wind gusts could be as high as 80 miles per hour. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about this big storm system that's coming to the United States and why it continues to get more and more concerning. We'll begin with what's happening across the country today, and we do have a storm system that is moving across the lower Mississippi Valley this morning. This did end up bringing a couple of severe storms to areas like Arkansas and Texas yesterday evening. We actually had some quarter-sized hail just outside of Little Rock last night. This will continue to move to the east, and it will bring another low-end risk of severe weather this afternoon and evening, mainly to southern Mississippi and Alabama, where some damaging winds and an isolated tornado will be possible. But really, the big story is this storm way back over on the west coast. This is expected to amplify, and this will end up being one of the most powerful storm systems that we've seen all year long as it moves into the Great Plains tomorrow with high winds and a severe weather outbreak all in play. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next few days, and we'll begin with tomorrow, which is Flying Fences Friday. We now have a moderate risk of severe weather in place across most of Illinois, eastern Missouri, even parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, and back up into Iowa, where there is a threat for widespread damaging winds. We also have an enhanced risk of severe weather, which goes all the way from the lower Mississippi River Valley back up into central Iowa, and then a marginal and slight risk that goes all the way back up into Minnesota and also into Louisiana. Now, our main concern for tomorrow is significant damaging winds. I do think we're going to see some major damaging wind threats evolve as we go into late tomorrow afternoon and into the evening hours, where we could be talking about damaging winds between 60 to 90 miles per hour here, as we are anticipating a line of thunderstorms to develop back over in central, northern, and eastern Missouri. This will eventually expand into the Midwest and eventually into the Ohio Valley. We'll talk more about the timing and what that looks like in just a moment. There is also a chance further down to the south we'll have some storms also firing up down there. There's a little bit more of a problem, though, further down to the south, as we are going to have a little bit less moisture in addition to a bit of a capping inversion, which could prevent storms from essentially bubbling up down there initially. But I do think we'll see storms as we go into the evening hours. It just might take a little bit of time. Now, the hail risk is most significant mainly across areas like St. Louis, back into southeast Iowa, and also into northern Mississippi. Make sure you're protecting your vehicle, as there could be hail as large as the size of baseballs tomorrow afternoon and into the early evening hours. And tomorrow's tornado risk is also relatively concerning, as we have a large 10% hatched region from southeast Iowa back into Alabama and Mississippi, where a few strong tornadoes will be a possibility, mainly around 5 p.m. all the way into the early overnight hours here. And we also could see tornadoes as far north as southeast Minnesota tomorrow, and also back through the Gulf Coast. Make sure that you have a tornado action plan ready to go in multiple ways to receive alerts. Also, make sure you're subscribed to our channel, as we'll be live covering this tomorrow afternoon and evening with in-depth coverage with multiple storm chasers in the field. You're not going to want to miss it. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon down below so you're notified when that happens, and also make sure you're following us on Facebook and Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. The links are in the description. We'll be posting a ton of updates on there today and as well as tomorrow. And then as we go into Saturday, we are talking about another major risk for severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center once again has upgraded to a moderate risk, which is a 4 out of 5 on the severe weather scale, of severe weather in the Dixie Alley in eastern Louisiana, central and southern Mississippi, and even central and southern Alabama, where damaging winds, large hail, and several tornadoes will be a possibility. Long track tornadoes are also in play here in the Dixie Alley, and this includes basically anywhere in the enhanced, slight, or moderate risk. Just keep that in mind. If you're back over in the Dixie Alley, really any of you could see the potential for a strong or even long track tornado. Doesn't really matter what shading you're in, so don't get too caught up here in the shading. It is still a significant risk no matter where you are, and also significant damaging winds is in the forecast. If you're back up into the Ohio Valley, we're talking mainly about some damaging winds and isolated hail. There's a much lower tornado risk up here. Just make sure that you are staying weather aware in those areas. Beginning with tomorrow's risk of severe weather, we are anticipating a very favorable environment for not just damaging winds, but also the threat of tornadoes. The thing is, we are expecting a line of thunderstorms to develop as we go into the mid to late afternoon hours in central Missouri back up into Iowa. We will have a favorable environment again for tornadoes, but they're going to be more embedded in this line of thunderstorms initially, which will again be producing some numerous to widespread wind damage in Missouri, Iowa, and eventually into Illinois. But as we go later into the afternoon and eventually into the evening hours, we should start to see some storms just to the south of this line develop, and we could even see a couple of discrete supercells. And if that ends up happening, a strong tornado risk is definitely going to be in play, definitely going to be something we need to monitor very closely. I would say, though, Friday's risk of severe weather is a little bit more conditional when it comes to the tornado risk compared to Saturday's. Now, that does not mean we will not see tornadoes at all here across the Mississippi River Valley. It's just a little bit more conditional. We're going to need enough forcing down here for there to really be some storms that blow up here along the Mississippi River Valley. If any storms do fire, even around or just after midnight, we have a very favorable environment for tornadoes. One concerning trend as well is that we could even see a tornado threat go all the way into the early morning hours on Saturday, even back over here in parts of western Kentucky, Tennessee, and into Mississippi, which nocturnal tornado threats, as many of you know, are the worst. Let's hope that does not happen, but it is a possibility tomorrow night. Now, in terms of the timing for severe weather, storms are going to start to fire up around 4, 5, 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, mainly back over in Missouri, where our damaging wind risk will really start to ramp up. We are anticipating a bowing area of thunderstorm activity, which will allow for some embedded tornadoes in this line, but keep in mind, this is mostly going to be a straight-line wind risk moving across the Midwest. Eventually, by around 8 to 9 o'clock, that is when we're going to have to start to watch the southern area of this line for some discrete supercellular activity, and if any of that does happen, a strong tornado risk will definitely be more elevated in those areas. And then eventually by midnight, this line continues to push east into Indiana, Kentucky, and as well as through Tennessee, and into the overnight hours, it is weakening as it moves into the Ohio Valley. But I do want to mention that, again, really the Midwest is the most concerning area right now, especially for the damaging wind risk, where damaging winds could be as high as 60 to 90 miles per hour. And then as we go into Sunday, we are anticipating a very strong area of low-level winds across the Dixie Alley, which is going to make this environment extremely favorable for tornadoes, as long as we don't have any sort of crazy convection in the morning that prevents really tall supercells from developing in the afternoon hours. That is one of the biggest things that we're going to have to watch for on Saturday. Unfortunately, I do think Saturday is going to end up being a tornado outbreak in the Dixie Alley. You're going to want to make sure that you are staying weather aware on Saturday. There's no reason to be panicking by any means. Just make sure that you're ready for these storms. We will also be live on Saturday, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It is going to be a very busy next 72 hours here on this channel, and also for the weather in general across the entire country. And unfortunately, Saturday continues to look very concerning. We have a lot of wind shear and instability in place, especially in eastern Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and western Georgia throughout the daytime hours on Saturday, mainly geared towards about 12 p.m. until about 8 p.m., where we could be talking about several tornadoes and maybe even some long-tracked and strong tornadoes. So this is definitely a day that you're going to want to make sure that you're staying vigilant if you're anywhere here in the Dixie Alley. And also a reminder, if you're in a mobile home, make sure you have a sturdy structure ready to go for Saturday. Do not be waiting last second until you're in a tornado warning to get to that safe place that might be miles away from your mobile home, for example. Also, significant tornado parameter values are very high. This is really peaking around 3 to 6 o'clock here in Mississippi, and so we're definitely going to have to watch this very closely. And I do want to mention that it is going to depend a bit more on us having discrete supercells, and we won't exactly know what the storm mode is going to be until tomorrow when some of the short-term computer models come in, which are called our convective allowing models. So that's going to be something we're going to be watching for over the next 24 hours. There's a very good chance that we will have another video update later today talking more about this in detail, in addition to the timing for severe weather, but get an idea here that we're talking mainly from 12 to 8 p.m. across the Dixie Alley for the risk of severe weather. We could still see severe weather before and after that, but that will be the most significant time frame for tornadoes and as well as damaging winds. And the last thing I want to talk about is the fire risk that'll be taking place tomorrow in the southern plains. Very high winds will be on the backside of this low pressure system during the morning and afternoon hours across Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas, where wind gusts could be as high as 70 to 80 miles per hour at times. This is a very dangerous setup. In addition to there being very low relative humidity, this could cause the threat here for a lot of different fires that could spread very quickly if any are ignited. So make sure if you're anywhere here in the southern plains that you are staying vigilant tomorrow, despite the weather being somewhat nice with sunny skies in the forecast. Unfortunately, it's going to be very windy, and in addition to that, there is very low humidity. And then by Saturday, we're talking about better conditions here across the Great Plains, but still windy, that we could still see a couple of fires even back over in South and West Texas. So the fire risk over the next few days will be mainly across the Great Plains. This is what it looks like for today. A critical risk is in place from Nebraska back into West Texas, and tomorrow is a completely different story, as we now have an extreme risk for fire weather across much of Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas. This is one of the largest extreme risks that you'll really ever see when it comes to fire fire weather in the southern plains. Make sure if you're anywhere in this area that you are doing your part in preventing wildfires from spreading, and also just in general any fires from igniting, and also make sure to spread the word. This is going to be a really major event tomorrow, I think, when it comes to the amount of wind and very low humidity that we have in place. Saturday, things start to settle down a little bit, but as I mentioned a moment ago, the winds will still stay strong in West and South Texas, so make sure that you're doing your part in preventing fires from igniting. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. There's a very good chance that we'll have a video later this afternoon with a more detailed breakdown on timing and threats for severe weather, so make sure you're subscribed down below. Click the bell icon so you're notified with all that good stuff. And then also, we will likely be live for a long time on both Friday and Saturday, 2 separate streams covering 2 different severe weather and potentially even tornado outbreaks, so make sure you are subscribed down below. And as a reminder, our 1 million subscriber merch is still out at shopmaxvelocity.net. If you want to support what we do here, this is one of the best ways to do so. We still have our signed hats, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers available. This is out for a couple more weeks at shopmaxvelocity.net.